Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about trade wars and hot ones, and whether one will morph into the other. As we sit on the edge of a global trade war, we're getting a lot of questions about what it takes for a trade war to morph into the other kind, the pew-pew kind. The concern being expressed is grounded in history and how a lot of times trade conflicts grew and spilled over into real ones. It happens often enough for some people to believe that all wars are trade wars to some degree. So yes, historically trade conflicts, disputes over natural resources, disruptions to shipping and so on, have led to actual shooting wars. Is that likely in the case of Trump's global trade war? Well, you'd have to start by looking at competitor nations that would actually think they could go toe-to-toe with the United States, that also have a strong enough economy to actually make big enough gains economically for it to pay off. It's a short list. It's China. End list. It's really unlikely that China attacks U.S. possessions. But in today's world, most times there isn't a formal territory handover and maps aren't redrawn. So it's also unlikely that China militarily attacks countries that are needed markets to the United States. Honestly, when it comes to actual war, the most likely option is that a country tries to take advantage of the economic chaos to achieve a military victory over disputed territory. So, your risks of an actual shooting war are pretty low, but not zero. However, because we don't plant flags and say, this land belongs to us now, very often in the modern world, that doesn't fully address the overriding question. Will competitor nations make moves to take markets away from the United States? Absolutely. 100% it will occur. In fact, I'm sure there are already moves being made with that as the goal. The way the world operates now, for the most part, is swaying markets through the use of soft power. Since the United States has basically abandoned soft power as a whole, shut down or severely reduced the agencies that can exert it, and has chosen this moment to disrupt our trading relationships with countries all over the world, of course, competitor nations will attempt to take advantage of that. They wouldn't be competitors if they didn't, right? I would expect that China makes a lot of moves to push their products into markets that are less profitable than the United States, but that will be profitable long term. I would expect China to make a massive push to gain access to raw resources in Africa. They supply them with some cheap goods that were originally intended for the U.S. market to get their foot in the door. If the trade war lasts for any significant amount of time, they will replace the United States as the dominant economic force because they'll have access to more markets. So, while the risk of a shooting war is low, the risk of losing access, which is why trade wars used to morph, is very, very high. If that happens, it'll put the U.S. behind for decades. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.